Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tales from a Professional Nerd, starring me, Bryan Steele. I will be your nerd today, and any other day that you watch my goofy little show. So, it has been a crazy week, a great week, an insanely weird week. We're going to start off with the easy stuff, the kind of stuff that I always talk about, gaming and whatnot. Didn't get to play our Curse of Strahd game this week. A couple players had to reschedule, but that does mean we're going to get 2 weeks in a row for the next 2 weeks. So that'll be fun. Hopefully, no one dies in that time frame. The game, the Waking Realms game, which is the name of the game where I get to play the cat dancing, the dancing cat monk. We had a really cool session. Honestly, it was a shortish session, and it was all combat. Very, very little role playing. The role playing we did was, all right, we're walking in the woods. Let's talk a little bit about what just happened before. Oh, okay, hey, bad guys got here. Which sometimes you need that. And honestly, last Friday, I really did need it. I needed that kind of release after some heated discussions that I was not too terribly happy about. So it was nice to be like, all right, let's just throw some dice. I want to beat up some bad guys. But where things come together, or where it's different, is it wasn't a normal combat at all. It was a homebrew monster taken from a set of books. Apparently, like he was paying homage to a series of books. Where it was a bunch of weird tribal-looking things, and as we killed them, the rest of them got stronger and bigger until eventually, like the last one of the tribe or the pack or whatever it was like this giant of a creature. And my guy got knocked out. I required healing. I was doing death saves. There's one other guy who had death saves coming. It was a tough fight, but it was cool. It was neat to see a monster mechanic that I hadn't seen before, and it was neat to know that our DM is thinking outside the box, because most of the people he plays with, most of the people in that group are veteran players. We've been playing for a long time, and several of us have been dungeon masters ourselves. So it's kind of hard to surprise us with combats and things. Yeah, we try and keep the meta knowledge down. We try and keep it out of our heads and out of our gameplay. But there are some things you just can't help. Like if I see a particular type of monster, it doesn't mean that I'm going to immediately have my character grab the thing that gets through his defenses, but it does mean that I'm probably going to have an idea in my head. Okay, this guy's, he's probably going to, run up and try and stab us with that, crazy tail of his, because, I remember how nasty the tail was, or whatever. So it's nice to have a fresh look at, a fresh monster, or a fresh combat that other people don't know about, or can't you can't put your finger on, because it's a homebrew critter. So there is definitely, if only for that reason alone, there is something to be said for going into other people's websites, and onto the fan sites, and into the DM's guild, hint hint, nudge nudge, and get new stuff. Lore Masters Guild, Path to Adventure. So soon to be, when we get here in a couple of months, we're going to put up we'll put up our first monster supplement. So I'll have some new stuff that you can throw at your players too. Shameless plug. But either way, I mean, I'm shamelessly plugging my merchandise, but I am being serious. Finding new variants on monsters, or new monsters altogether, or a 5e compatible book that maybe none of your players know about, is awesome. And it's a great way to surprise them at the table, so they, if they've seen the same old goblins over and over and over and over, whatever, then suddenly you can surprise them with this new weird draconic goblin, or goblin zombies, zoblins, or whatever you want to do, because it keeps the game fresh, it keeps the feeling fresh, and for players that have been playing a long time, it's hard to surprise us, and it's hard, the plot does a good job of keeping us, engaged or whatever. But a fast and easy way to put a shot of adrenaline into a game is throw a made up monster at, drastically made up. Not like, oh, here's a chimera that has a moose head instead of a goat head, and a bear instead of a lion, and a hawk instead of this, and we'll call it, the Great Northern Chimera or whatever. Yeah, that's a cool idea, but it's basically the same monster, just a different, a different skin on it. Come up with some cool stuff that they don't know about, or find some obscure reference point that you can use, and you'll do a good job of reeling them in. And they definitely and our DM definitely reeled us in on that fight, because we saw these little tribals, and it was really easy to deal with these guys. And after the first two or three, we were like, all right, this seems, this encounter might not be level appropriate. But then, one of them like breathed in and got bigger when the third one died, or I don't know the exact numbers or anything, but it was cool to see that, like, he was basically drawing on the death energy of his friends to become bigger, stronger, and tougher. And it was not just one of them; the rest of the pack got bigger that way. It was very cool. It was, like I said, it was a neat encounter. I don't mind having an entire session being nothing but combat if it's engaging, and that definitely was. So, take a drink. So that was really all of the role playing I did. Oh, that is untrue. I am a lot. Oh, I think my camera went all crazy. Sorry, guys. Camera wonk. I totally spaced the fact that I put up there's a new episode finally of the Arcane Promise up in the channel, so you guys go check that out. If you haven't checked out the Arcane Promise, I know it's a lot of hours of watching, but hell, if you can do it for Critical Role, you can do it for me. It's our Spelljammer 5e YouTube game. It technically starts with session 0 in the Tales from a Professional Nerd series. I actually put it as one of our episodes here to see if we wanted to do that, and then we created our own channel for the Arcane Promise, where then it goes on to the rest of the sessions, and then we just uploaded session 7, which was a lot of fun and surprising in some cases. Or my lovely players do some weird stuff sometimes. Let's see what else. That was did some. Didn't do any board gaming. I thought I was going to. I thought I was going to play some Mighty Morphin Power Rangers board game, the Champions of the Grid. I thought I was going to play some of that. I figured that I might play some is it Monster Slayer or Monster Champion Monster or whatever, the D&D card game. There was even part of me that thought I was going to get into some Magic the Gathering with my kiddo, but just didn't happen. But we did play a decent amount of video games. Played some Minecraft. Played there's another new Necromunda update that added in the Cawdor gang, and they look great. So played some Necromunda, and also got some more hours in on Sea of Thieves, the pirate game, which, if you haven't played that game, you really need to give it a try. Every time they update that, they just make it better every single time. Like, there's never a step backwards. It is always just, better graphics, better functionality, new fish to catch, new treasures to have, new skeletons to fight. I mean, it's a class act of a game, and it is so gorgeous. As long as you're not being pestered by annoying, jerk players that want to try and sink your ship constantly, you could spend an entire day just sailing and seeing the sights, and you'd probably be happy about it. It is really, really great game. And starting today, or by the time you see this, yesterday, is the Festival of Fishes, so it's a game about pirates where you're supposed to, like, get buried treasure and solve riddles and go beat up ghost skeletons and sink enemy ships and things. But there's also this little side game where you can go fishing, where you have a fishing pole and bait, and you just fish off the side of your boat, or fish off the dock, or fish off of a beach or a mountain or whatever. And for whatever reason, I love it. I get so sucked into fishing. I can log into my game, pilot my little tiny boat to wherever I'm going, drop anchor, and then just fish for like an hour. Well, right now, here's the payoff for weirdos like me, because I get to do the festival of fishes, where there's all kinds of cool special prizes for catching the right types of fish and delivering them to the right people and all that sort of thing. So I expect I'm probably going to be playing some more Sea of Thieves later this evening, after I get done with all this. That's pretty much all the gaming that I did. Painting wise, so last week in the sleepiest, most confusing hobby episode ever, I apologize again for that, I started on RC, the Transformer, the Autobot, and the following day, after everything was ready on her, I went ahead and finished her up. So here she is in all her glory. Little Autobot symbol on her chest chassis there, which, by the way, hand painted, because I don't do decals, because I'm a glutton for punishment, perhaps. I don't know. But this was a lot of fun. She's really cool, and in my little homebrew Transformers miniatures game, she's very important for getting objectives and things. So, pew 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 pew. Next up on the Transformers is Soundwave, but there hasn't been a new Transformers wave since, so I'm not in any real rush to get him done, because I know the next wave is supposed to be some of the Cassetticons that would allow me to use him in my homebrew miniatures game. Because without the Cassetticons, he's kind of not worth the points you're spending on him, which makes sense, because obviously he's the minion master. You need his minions. Let's see, what else? Started another commission, a Vex Harbinger or Harvester or something for Chaos Space Marines, for a client of mine, which I just got it assembled. GW's kits are awesome. They're great plastic. They fit together great, and some of the spots that are keyed specifically so they can only go this one place because this is going to be a load bearing part or something is cool. But I will say this: they've gotten weird about some of their parts. Like, there are parts on the sprue that just don't. There's no reason why these are a separate piece. Aside from, maybe to try and stop counterfeiters, or to, kind of lift that bar a bit of hobby level. I don't know. But, like, the flare on the autocannon was half sculpted and then half not. So you had to put, there was this tiny little area piece that was just, not the whole half of the gun, just the little front muzzle brake. This is weird. It's weird. The exhaust pipes on the back of the critter, because again, it's a chaos half machine, half whatever critter. It has exhaust pipes coming out of its like rear hips. The littler exhaust pipe has got little flanges that come off the top of the exhaust. Well, sculpting wise, it came with half the phalanges attached, and then a tiny, itty-bitty little piece that goes boop and forms on the other side to make the rest of the pipe. I don't understand why that wasn't one piece. If anybody out there knows, please leave it in the comments, because it does not make a damn bit of sense to me, and it was frustrating as hell to have to deal with those tiny, itty-bitty little parts when they're not interchangeable, and they absolutely could just be part of that bit. Easy peasy. Something else that happened to me this week, which is very cool, and I'm going to. So first I announced it on TikTok, which is why here in a second I'm gonna cut away to a couple of TikTok videos so you can see what we're talking about. But it might have been one of you guys, because I know I put my address up at the beginning of every one of my videos. in the description of our videos in case somebody wants to have me do an open boxing or send me something fun on through the mail. Well, you know what? I'm just going to take a second and I'm going to let you know. I'm going to let you go ahead and look at what happened earlier this week. So roll the tape. I got a package for the professional nerd, which is me. I don't know. There's no return labeling on it or anything like that, aside from where it came from. So I don't know what this is. So we're going to find out what it is right now. Holy crap.
What is it?
It's called an Anycubic. I don't know what this is.
So what is it?
This is a 3D printer. One of you guys sent me a 3D printer. Holy shnikes. Thank you, whoever you are. It's too much, whoever you are. Wow. Thank you. So one of you followers or fans or whatever bought and sent me a 3D resin printer. I don't have words. And I'm a wordsmith. This is what I do for a living. And I don't know what, aside from thank you and holy shit. Wow. Thanks. I guess I gotta start making stuff and learn how to use this thing. So.
New videos, I guess.
Yeah, new videos. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, wow.
I guess thanks to your rant on your
your
Friday rant.
One of my Friday morning confessionals about 3D printers, and now I'm in that family. Well, here I am. I gotta learn how to use this beast. I know, right? So one of you guys, or one of my TikTok fans, one of a follower, or a TikTok fan, or somebody, you guys, you sent me a 3D printer. Not even a like a discount bin, Junko printer, like a legit 3D resin printer. Thank you. If it's not a TikToker and it is one of you guys, thank you so much, whoever you are. You shouldn't have done that, but I'm glad that you did. It's going to give me an opportunity to mess around with, maybe learning how to do some of that whole digital sculpting thing that, I've been doing putty and wire forever. Maybe it's time to get a little more advanced, or give me an opportunity to buy and make some of those really cool models that I see on Kickstarter that they sell the STLs for, or frankly, maybe learn how to or make implements or tools that are going to be useful for gaming, or maybe just useful for friends and family. I have no idea. The possibilities, I don't want to say are endless because that's really cliche, but the possibilities are pretty vast of what I might be able to do with this thing if I get good at it. I know one thing I want to do is I want to use it to make proxies for a little side project that I'm doing. An unofficial side project, but side project nonetheless. And maybe use it to make some terrain, buy some STLs for some of the games that I play. The sky's the limit. Well, the resin's the limit, actually. And I know there's a couple of my friends in my local gaming group that have been hewing, basically going back and forth, that they want to either get one or use one or whatever. So they've bought some STLs of their own. As long as they pay me back with the resin or whatever, I'll have no problem. I keep looking over there because it's over there in the hobby section. If you're wondering why I keep looking off camera, it's not because I'm gonna get mugged or something. It's because the printer's over there. But yeah, so it's just it blew me away. It absolutely blew me away, and just like last year when one of you guys got me the Forge World kit, the last Forge World kit that I was missing, or when someone sent me this really beautiful dice box through my TikTok. I can't. You guys always blow me away. I will say that there is a part of me that says rather than propping me up with stuff, follow the link on the GoFundMe and help my wife pay off her medical bills would be, just as fabulous. But that being said, I'm never gonna say no to awesome, cool stuff, and eventually, I'll probably set up a camera so we can kind of watch it work at some point. You guys will maybe get to see some stuff that I am making or trying to make or whatever. Speaking of 3D printed things, so I'm going to show you guys something. I did not make this. I was on a podcast just a couple weeks ago talking about Warzone, and it was a great podcast. It was the Dead Gamers, Dead Games, Dead Game. Oh man, Chris is gonna be upset because I can't remember what it was called. I think it's the Dead Gamers Cast or Dead Gamers Closet or something along. Basically, they talk about games that are no longer really supported, and we talked a little bit about Dark Age, and we started talking about the old versions of Warzone, knowing that I'm bringing back with Res Nova this new version. And we talked a little bit about the corporations, and one of the two podcast guys, his name is Chris, he fell in love with Mishima, which in Warzone, Mishima is the kind of feudal Japan, Asian-themed corporation where they've got like samurai and a lot of dragon motif and swords galore, ninjas and things within their corporate army. And apparently, what he did, he went to the Hero Forge website. It's a website that they specifically exist to let you make customized models, and then you basically hit I want this model, and their 3D printer people will make it and put it together and polish it up and whatever and send it out to you. Well, what he did is that he made 3 personal Warzone figures that I'll have to rebase because his base is a little tiny, but he made one for Owen, one for himself, and one for me. I don't know if you can see, he's got a beard, a shotgun, he's a little pudgy in the midsection, sword on his back, Mishima samurai armor. Like, he found a way to make like Mishima samurai or Hatamoto soldiers with their helmets off, and he made one for himself, one for Owen, and one for me. And eventually I'll clean it up and we'll get it painted eventually. I don't know if I'm planning on having a Mishima Force, but I think that having this guy might force me to make a small Mishima Force when Warzone Eternal comes out, just so I can have my own little proxied guy running around, trying to win the missions or whatever. So I thought he sent this to me, and I think that's so great. It's so great. I don't know if it'll zoom in. There we go. He's so good. So I can't wait for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. So on top of that, speaking of podcasts and things, I did the what was it? miniwargaming.com. I did an interview with Dave, their kind of head honcho, a couple months ago, talking about Warzone and things. But ever since, we've actually stayed a little closer in touch. And he recently just sent me the all of the information, and I do mean all. There's a lot of links this guy does to a guy named Mango Smasher. Obviously that's not his real name, but that's the name he goes by on all these forums and all these different social media sites. He is a painter primarily, a miniature painter who is extremely talented, and for whatever reason doesn't have a lot of stuff to or at least when he started this, he didn't have a lot of stuff to kind of practice and work on, but he really wanted to keep painting and keep getting better and whatnot. And so he started asking around to other gamers if they had anything that he could do as commissions. And when people said, well, no, I'm not going to pay somebody to paint my model, or rather than asking him for a quote or something, his response was always, no, I do it for the love of painting and the love of the game. And that has really carried forward still. He's got several like I'm going to call them price brackets. He's got several brackets of people waiting in line for his service, things that he's going to do for them. A lot of times it's done live on his Twitch channel. So I want you guys to go check it out, because there really is there's something to be said for such unbelievable generosity to give up your time and your hobby art for other people's things, and then not ask them for money in return. It's something to be said. So check out Mango Smasher. A copious amount of links are in the description for how to get a hold of him. Along with my DMs Guild, the link to my class supplement, and eventually it will hopefully lead you also to the monster supplement. The Warzone Eternal fan page, and anything else that kind of pops up during the conversation, if it does. So, speaking of conversation, and talking honestly a little bit about the 3D printing thing, I had gotten into a handful of, I don't want to call them arguments, because nobody really got angry. They maybe got a little disappointed in the other side or something along those lines, and walked away like, maybe a little meh. But I don't think friendships were broken over it or anything. But last week, there were a ton of little things that hopped up and down on my dangly nerve, and made me start forming a little bit of a list of things that grump me out. Basically, kind of my hard cuts. We're gonna, deep cuts, hard cuts about gamers in the gaming industry. So I apologize ahead of time if this gets a little ranty. I apologize ahead of time if some of the terminology used or the content of what I'm saying upsets you. I'm just basically using today to kind of tell people a little bit about what makes me my hard cuts of the industry right now. Things that are happening at a fan level, at a business level, that make me just a little, wish that I could change something about it. They are in no particular order, so don't think that because I start with one that's the biggest or that's the least annoying or whatever. They're all just things that when they happen, Bryan grits his teeth and goes, "Come on, we can get through this. Tomorrow is another day." So we're gonna basically cover 10 of those today, because makes for a good video, and you guys hopefully will have some good comments and things in the comment section. So let's start with number one. As somebody who just now has a 3D printer and doesn't know how to use it yet, I'm still going to need to figure out how to use it, and what's the ratio of this to that, and how long, and how do I set up my vents, and is it level, and all that kind of stuff. Regardless, as somebody who now has a 3D printer of from what I understand, pretty high quality, I want to say this straightforward. First foremost, up front, Hopefully, anybody who ever plans to ask me to print something for them sees it here and hears it here. I will not, NOT, use that printer to create copyrighted material. I will not, even if it is someone's STL, like they made the STL to reproduce this particular gun from a GW product, or oh, this guy's base is no longer available, or his foot's no longer available, or whatever. I would rather them pay me to sculpt it from scratch than them buy me resin and find and support some electronic sculpting digital scan thief out there to then further a pirated STL. I know there are websites out there that specialize in having these files on hand, having them readily available, taking down the ones that supposedly are problematic. But I don't want any of it, because even if you are within your rights because you found it on a third-party website or something like that, you are still asking me to forge something for you, to create a forgery. And not only am I just against that as a whole, not for some weird religious background or like, oh, the moral aptitude of it. It's because as a member of this industry, I want the industry to stay strong, and stealing from my cohorts and stealing from other businesses, hell, even stealing from my opposition is wrong. If the industry stays strong, we all flourish. And that is the one thing that the internet's 3D printing community, I've already decided, has failed upon. And that is figuring out a way to keep people from pirating their stuff. From finding a scanner, a 3D scanner that'll scan the model, take a bit out or whatever, and then they basically can sell them on eBay or whatever. It is tragic that there are gamers in the same way that there are people out there that like do the whole I can pirate movies, I would have never spent any money on it anyway, or I can pirate movies, I'll just go out and buy the DVD when it comes out, but I want to see it now. Just like those people, using pirated STLs and supporting 3D scanning thieves is just out. That will make an enemy of me, and there's no debate. There's no, the only time that I'm ever even remotely like, maybe, is if like the company is no longer in business, so you're not actually stealing from anybody because they don't exist anymore. Or if, it's a product that has been out of print for so long that like the only people who could possibly get a hold of this are people who have, like artistic levels in it. Well, yes, this model is normally retailed at $32, but I'm selling it for $500 because there's only 20 left in the world. Something like that might be might have grounds to stand on, but generally speaking, I don't want to help further the idea that because it's easier to make your own version that's cheaper using a 3D printer, I don't want to further the thought that people think that that's okay. Or when people see that product show up and they go, oh man, you got one of those, I thought they were out of print or I thought they hadn't restocked them yet, or I thought the local store didn't get any. Well, yeah, I found a way. Well, yeah, because you cheated and you made your own. You stole the digital file, or you got a hold of a forgery file and you printed your own version and just basically circumvented the sale, and that's wrong too. So that's my number one hard take today. And again, we're not doing like countdowns or anything. Is I don't even want people to ask me to print things for them if their stuff is shady. If it's from an IP that or stolen STLs, or an IP that is already selling stuff in a different fashion, and you just want to get it cheaper. You're going to get a pretty fast no from me. So let's just skip that and go. I'm going to make some stuff with it, and if you have legit stuff, and legit stuff in resin, and I'll make stuff for you too there. That's really it. Number two. Number two is a personal, and this is something that I've upheld for many, many years. And I'll explain why in a minute. So I don't mind, especially now that most role playing is happening over Zoom or whatever, or not in the same establishment, not in the same location, same site. I don't mind if in another person's game players are allowed to drink, or in states where it is legal, smoke weed or something like that. That doesn't bother me as a player. Because as a player, if I get too upset about their shenanigans and them being silly, I'm supposed to be able to go to the dungeon master and go, hey, rein this shit in. Ooh, sorry. Again, sorry. I told you, rant mode. I can tell them to try and rein it in because that's their job to do it. That being said, if I am the DM, I have, for 20 years, I think, for the last 20 years, I've basically had a no drugs or alcohol at the table. And the reason for that is not because I'm some kind of straight lace that's like, I don't want any druggies at my table, or I don't want somebody whose breath smells like booze. That's not like that. What it is when I run a role playing game, a lot of times there are some heavy topics. There are some heavy role play moments. There might be moments where players are at ends with one another, and the goal is to get through these things and come out on the other side. Throw in booze or any kind of mood enhancers or anything like that, and it's quite possible that your solvable situation devolves either into slapstick comic relief or dumb decision making, or they just miss the point altogether because they're just a little too tipsy. I just don't like it at my table, and I've always been that way since we can drink. It's just, I think that it makes players sloppy. I think that it turns potentially real good gritty role playing into a 99-cent Deadpool hour. I just it's not for me. And again, I can't stop you, like in an electronic game, I can't stop you in your house from having a beer when you're playing. I can ask you not to, but it's your house. You're also far away. It's not going to be something that is hopefully going to be a problem at an electronic table as much as it would be there in person. But that's my take on that. Is I really don't like it at the table. I would prefer in other people's games if they didn't either. And I generally, with very, very little exception, I generally don't for when it comes to role-playing games. Now, that being said, card games, tabletop board games, and video games, oh, yeah, you can booze it up like crazy. You can go nuts because those tend to not have an emotional response or deep plots involved because you're just rolling dice and throwing cards around. Miniatures games as well. I don't mind having a nice board game day that involves, some mixed drinks and cocktails along the way. Because, that's almost like a different way of sort of letting go and cutting loose while you're playing these games. I don't have to try and keep up a role or keep up plot appearances in a board game. For the most part, there are some out there that you do, but for the most part, you don't have to. And so I don't mind it on those. The exception, of course, being any kind of tournament play. If you're ever in a card game tournament, or if you're ever in a miniatures game tournament, or if you're ever in a random board game tournament, if I'm the tournament organizer, or if I have any say in the tournament organizer's rules, there will definitely be a no drinking, no drugs, no inebriation policy on site. And that is to stop someone from just basically ruining everybody's day by being super, super sloppy. Or even worse, somebody who isn't putting up their best, who isn't thinking straight and screws up royally, maybe accidentally forgets a rule or accidentally cheats, or, oh, I had this card in my hand the whole time, I didn't realize it. It can cause some serious problems for your games if your mind's not in the game. And if your mind is in the game but pickled, it's going to cause just as many problems. So that's my take on drugs and alcohol at the table. We're going to get into a couple of other player related ones. I hate players that need to know everything. I shouldn't say hate. It makes me crazy when players need to know everything. Things that they shouldn't know. Things that are behind the screen. What did he roll? What's his AC? Whatever. Things that the dungeon master or the game master have under control. They have it in their plot, their script, their part of everything. The players are supposed to figure things out on their own, and sometimes there are things that you just don't need to know. And not even because it's secret, just because why would you? Why is that thought going to take up some even iota of memory bank in your brain pan? It shouldn't. You should just let it go. And then maybe when a big plot point happens as part of something you weren't aware, you have a bigger payoff. You get a bigger, oh man, I didn't know that. That's what was going on, huh? If you already knew half of the things that are going on, sometimes those session payoffs are going to be pretty limited. You're like, yeah, well, Herbie told me, or whatever. So that is, I think that's probably one of my points. Yeah, definitely. Let's see, next one. I had wrote these down, but I lost the piece of paper, so now we gotta go off the top of my head. Okay, I am going to definitely make people upset at this one. The current atmosphere, we'll say, in the role-playing game industry is very much pro homogenization, where a lot of the people are playing relatively, it's all, as long as you're not giving anybody negatives and everybody's positive, and it's all pluses, no minuses. You can't penalize your players, that sort of thing. There's a very strong community of players out there that are vocal about, as a DM, you should not stop your players from doing things. You should never tell them no. No is a dirty word. And I have to disagree. I have to disagree strongly. Yeah, if you've got a great table of players, if you've got players that go deep into character, have a great time, they play seamlessly, they get along famously, awesome. I'll probably have no trouble answering most of their requests as yes. then conversely, you give me a group of people that constantly are, bickering amongst themselves. PvP is always one threat away. Maybe there's some language issues that are coming into play between players and the environment, or between players and players. Whatever the case may be, is you've got a rough situation, you've got a negative situation, and if you don't apply some limits to their behavior and tell them straight up, no, you can't do that once in a while, you won't be part of the game anymore. You'll basically be there to tell them what monsters to beat up and occasionally do some bookkeeping. And that's not okay. As a DM, yeah, it's everybody's game. It's everybody. You're all part of the same game. You're supposed to be all telling the same story from different angles, from different perspectives, offering your own strengths and weaknesses to the group. If you let those kind of super bullies take over, then you need to take your stuff back. You need to reclaim that lost territory, because a game that goes off the rails that bad, because the players are just simply allowed to do whatever the heck they want, will not be fun after. It might be fun for a little while. It might be, for the players, it might be great fun to be able to just do whatever the heck you want for a little bit and be like, no, no circumstances, because the DM has not laid the law down, has not put his boot down yet. But then once they do, rein it in, pull it back, keep it manageable, keep it realistic for your game setting. Don't let it get out of hand. And if you're the kind of player out there, if you're watching this, you're the kind of player that's like, I don't want my DM to tell me that I can't do something. I would much rather them tell them, give them a skill, give me a skill test that is going to be super hard, or give me two saving throws, and if I make them both on 20, no, don't come up with additional gameplay rules. Don't come up with additional hoops to jump in. All that's doing is you're saying, I wish I could tell you no, but I can't because I don't want to upset you. And that's not the way to run a game. You are the dungeon master for a reason. It's not to say that you are a jerk, or that you need to be a jerk, but it does say that you need to step in and tell your players, no, this is the way it is in this plot, in this arc. If you don't like that, talk to me afterwards. We'll see if there's something we can do. Because again, I'm not saying for you just to stonewall everybody like, nope. I'm saying you tell them, let's talk about it later, so it doesn't slow down game, so it doesn't make you as a DM look foolish. And then on top of all of that, they still get a chance to tell their tale, to tell the dean this is what's going on. You still have that chance. And that's the important part, in my opinion. It is about having the opportunity to challenge your players without them throwing a fit and being like, I was playing this game and he hit me a bunch of times in combat. Well, yes, that's what combat's about, you goof. Or, he killed my character. Which I'm going to bridge over into number 5. Number 5 is killing characters is okay. You should not feel bad if it happens. Especially if it happens, if you're a DM, and it happens because of player stupidity. If a player, for instance, forgets they have a magic item that could save them and they die, you look at them and go, gosh, man, you really should have paid attention more. Or in the case of, multiple characters all doing the same thing and one guy goes down, it should not be automatically assumed that the party will save them. It shouldn't automatically be assumed that, oh, because healing magic is available, that needs to be the next action. Unless, of course, it is that person's next action. You know, like I said, don't assume it, but if it happens, it's fine. You know, that's a-okay. The other half of number 5 is, you know, while don't be afraid to kill a character, is also try to see it through the players playing. You know, are they having a good time? Are they enjoying themselves? Are they hiding from the fish because the fish are hitting them too much? You know, are they, you know, standing, you know, behind a closet door because you've made this corridor too deadly with traps? You know, there are possibilities, but for the most part, you should be able to learn that kind of nice level between, am I being too ruthless to my players, or am I giving them too much stuff to fit our genre? And this is especially true if you are running from a written adventure. If you are running from a module or a campaign book or an adventure book or whatever, the very first thing you should do is read it. Read the whole thing, cover to cover, and jot down any notes you have, you know, whatever. And then maybe if you have time, go back in a second time and reinforce what you knew. If you don't have time, then you just gotta plunge them in, and you try to keep up with them letter to the letter of the law. And when things start to break down, because that is going to happen for either side, it is your job as the DM, as the referee, so to speak, to step in and try and make this into a situation that isn't going to just be mass murder. Again, but you also don't want to be seen as, well, they're. I almost just threw somebody in their bus. You also don't want to be seen as, well, they'll be fine next session. You know, someone will come along, or, you know, the gods will shine down upon them, because all you're doing is basically telling your players that you're not going to let them die. Or if you do that one time, and then the next time you let somebody die, that person is the player of that person is probably going to have a bit of a chip on their shoulder, because they didn't have an opportunity to utilize what that came from before the fates or whatever stepped in and eliminated them, or eliminated a friend, or whatever. So that's number 5. Watch how you handle death in your games. Don't let them run all over you, because then there's no challenge. But also learn to take it easy when things are frustratingly hard. Because even if you're running out of a book adventure, you should be able to look forward and go, they can handle this, or this needs to get toned down. There are a lot of old adventures out there, like D&D adventures. I know, was it Palladium, the Rifts books did them, is they almost have different levels of encounter. Is if your guys are all super beat up or there's not very many of you, use this one. If your guys are regular strength, use this one. If your guys have been just kicking ass and taking names and nothing is getting in their way, use this one, because it's going to be a little harder for them, seemingly that they've been steamrolling through everything else. Gauge your lethality appropriately would be my number 5. Number 6. If a company puts out a product that you might need for your character or your army or your game, Do not ask around on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or uh, TikTok. Do not ask for a cheapy way, a free copy. Does anyone have a copy I can borrow? Or does anyone have a PDF copy I can have? Or you bought that box, can I have these models? There's one thing about having some charity, and as a gamer, if you don't need it, sell it, or you don't need it, give it to someone else. That's fine. But there comes a time where you're not, as the outsider, helping, giving, and setting that person up. What you're doing is you're basically creating someone who is not going to be able to take care of themselves when the game gets serious, when things get real. Or in the case of some of our own people on staff here at Tales of a Professional Nerd, because we have a huge staff, we say, you want to make sure that those people are taken care of. It's I want I don't want them to take other people's IP. I don't want them to feel that if I've got a product, I don't mind sharing, letting them read mine, letting them or it's a playtester that needs it for work or whatever. Or that's another thing, is if you do have a connection to the company and you ask for an au gratis copy, or you get an au gratis copy, whether you're a playtester or a designer or whatever, don't give it away. Don't send it around. Because what you're doing is you are basically saying, oh, I worked so hard for this and the other playtesters worked so hard for this, but you don't have to. Here you go. And even if it was only, it only cost 99 cents to put together for the main company, when I gave that to you, that is 99 cents that they didn't make. Whether or not you just wanted to take a look or whatever, I would rather sit down and talk with you about the product at length than hand you the product and go, nah, just don't tell anybody where you got it. Or make sure that you give them, make sure you buy a copy as soon as you can, or something along those lines. Because sometimes you won't. Sometimes you'll forget, and it goes back all the way to rule number 1, is about don't steal IP stuff. Don't take other people's property because you are in a bad way or forget or whatever. That's my number 6. A Weasley way of getting around to it, but basically, don't spread around free stuff. Yeah, you're not stealing because it was given to you, but you're helping people who should be buying copies on their own to not have to. Number 7. I'm keeping track of my die if you're wondering why I keep looking down. I'm trying to remember. Number 7. If you are playing a game, miniatures game, board game, card game, role-playing game, whatever, video game, with a person who perhaps you do not get along with, whether you just don't agree with their politics or don't like them as a person, or maybe you have bad blood from the past, whatever the case may be, you need to take a very serious look at yourself and decide, is my discomfort and my disliking of that person strong enough to influence my decisions and my behavior during gameplay, which in turn could bother other people at gaming, making them uncomfortable, causing problems in the game, and so forth and so on. Because if that answer is yes, and you're not sure, that you don't know if you've got it under control, and you're going to be snide, and you're going to be snippy, and you're going to make snarky comments every time they say something in character, despite the fact that it was totally fine and made sense, or every time they do something in the card game, you roll your eyes and say, make fun of them for it or whatever, what that's going to do is that's going to harbor not only bad feelings between the, it's going to harbor stronger bad feelings between the two of you. It's also going to make everyone around you uncomfortable. Nobody likes to watch people bicker. Now, people like to watch each other fight. That's a different story. Somebody is like, meet me outside. Everyone's going to go watch. But just being awkward around each other and just being, snippy and a real life troll, that's no good, man or lady. That's bad, because it can make the rest of the game just fall apart, or worse, makes people not give a damn about the game, and then everybody's just basically, I'm just here because I'm supposed to be, or I'm just running through the numbers or going through the motions. Doesn't matter. That's problematic too, because other people have come to play and enjoy themselves and possibly be challenged or enjoy deep plot. Not seeing two of the players ruin everything because of some, high school era feud or whatever. That's number 7. Be real about your opinions of other players. And if you can't control yourself, if you honestly cannot just play the game, maybe bow out. Not bow out like spectacularly with fireworks and, I'm leaving because this guy sucks. Nothing like that. Just basically tell your host, tell your dungeon master that I just can't do it. Like I don't get along with this particular person, and I think that it's going to be bad for everybody if both of us are in the same game. And what'll happen is either that person is going to accept your resignation, I guess, for lack of a better term. They're going to accept your honorable surrender in a situation like this, or they're going to ask you maybe to apologize to or it's going to be the other way around. Well, they feel strongly enough about it, they get rid of the other person, which you don't want to do, because obviously they were invited for a reason, no matter what you might personally think. So just overall, just be wary. Try and be a nice person, or at least a neutral person during gameplay, and definitely make sure you separate their character from their player in your mind, because if you're punishing their character for something the player has said or done or is, you're kind of being a jerk metagamer, and your character is exacting justice on an interdimensional level, so to speak. Number 8. These last couple, 8, 9, and 10, are probably going to be, I don't want to say scandalous, because it's not the right word. They're going to be the ones that I think people might actually comment about more in the comment section, and the ones that might come back, and I don't want to say come back and haunt me, but may come back from other people in the industry that are like, hey, I didn't know you feel this way. Number 8. I very much dislike the current decision, kind of the current industry swing to eliminate species-based bonuses for characters, or species differences, to basically create more even playing ground, and eliminate the sheer potential for someone to possibly make a cultural reference to other species in games. I keep using the word species because there are some, I know most games call it a racial thing. But all that does is that adds extra fuel to the people who believe that having the species modifiers is a racist way to look at things. Now, I'm not saying that their feelings are wrong. I'm not going to be one of those guys that's like, oh, they should toughen up, snowflake. No, what I'm saying is rather than condemning an entire system that has worked for a very long time for a lot of different people. And that's not just, oh, hey, middle-aged white guy talking. There are a lot of people out there that are totally fine with orcs getting higher strength, or halflings having a lower strength because they're only 3 feet tall, or robot characters in a sci-fi game not having to breathe, or this particular race having innate magic and a higher wisdom score because they live hundreds of years before they ever even leave the house. Whatever the case may be, whatever these species benefits are, I still believe that most players out there see that as just a different way to differentiate characters, to give them bonuses, to give them drawbacks, to give them things that make them distinct in the world at large. And not to mention, books going back as far as you can imagine, there are differences in people that aren't just, a hand wave and a thought process. There are some species out there. A dog is a dog, and a cat is a cat, and a dog has different bonuses than a cat, or a fish, or whatever. And I know that's kind of being very simplistic and a little maybe condescending to the point, but there is such a huge movement lately of when someone says, you know what, I really don't agree with the idea of halflings getting a +2 strength because you want to give them a +2 strength. They're only 3 feet tall and tiny framed critters. When that player looks at me and goes, you're being racist towards halflings, you're stifling my ability to make a halfling character that I want. It sounds so unbelievably player entitled. It sounds so childish to be like, I don't want my races, or I don't want my species to really be different. I want them all to be the same, aside from the cool powers that I can give. But I want to be able to give my cool powers to anybody I want. They shouldn't be limited. And my view on that is, you are playing a game. You're playing a game, and again, I'm gonna get a little heated. I'm gonna get a little hot here. I'm not saying write your game so humans are the most powerful species and they are leagues better than everyone else, or I'm not saying try and use racist epithets to describe the different species that you can be as a character. I'm saying that different species have different biological pluses and minuses, so to speak, and there really is nothing wrong with using those at your table. And my number 8, my hard take is, it makes me crazy when the newer age players look at those who want to use those species modifiers, that want to differentiate the species in their games. When they look at them and their opinion is, oh, you can't you can't go with the times, and it's almost like judging somebody because they like a particular style of movie or something along those lines. Or when someone, just because as a DM, I cannot stand the idea of getting rid of species modifiers and letting every player just add 2 to whatever they want. Just go ahead and add 2 you want. Oh, and you can go ahead and keep the elven cool bonuses, the elven night vision and things. And as a human, I guess your bonus is you get the extra feet. But you want to go ahead and have night vision? That's cool too. It makes me crazy to basically be like, hey players, do whatever the hell you want, because that's not realistic. And I know that's a dumb thing to say when it comes to when it comes to a fantasy game that you're role playing in, that you are a make believe hero with magic, but it is if you're trying to run a game that isn't just roll dice win the panda, if you're trying to make it like the real world, an elephant is stronger than a horse. A 8 foot tall, packed, dense frame of muscle is going to be tougher than a 3 foot tall, agile little string bean. And that's not to say that's not making fun of the string bean. That's just literally comparing their frames and their muscles. Unless you start making things supernaturally different. Now, that's not to say that you couldn't build a halfling with as strong as possible, and he's 3 feet tall and jacked. But as a species, the halflings are simply not going to be as strong as like purebred orcs or pure-blooded orcs. And it's not some kind of weird master race weirdness. It is just a matter of biology. It's not to say that there's not going to be halflings that aren't stronger than some orcs. That jacked halfling is probably going to be stronger than some of the smaller orcs, because there's a scale. That's why the scale is there, is to put variation into these species. Variation that goes right out the window when player characters can just do whatever they want. I'm against it. I know that there's a lot of players and a lot of DMs out there that are applauding that Wizards of the Coast and Tasha's Cauldron and stuff are getting rid of racial modifiers altogether. I utterly disagree. I think that as long as you are not delivering the description and the cultures of these species, or races if you want to call them that, as long as you're not delivering them in a fashion that makes them that colors them in a way of making them a racist metaphor or something along those lines, or if you're being insensitive to one of your players in something that you're doing with one of them, one of those sorts of things, I totally get that. But if that's not the case, if you've written them in just as another species, another cool culture in your world, I can't see a reason why they can't have biological differences that reflect in a way that doesn't make every single player character the best at what they do. Because that's not realistic either. I think it's also kind of naive. All right, so let's get off of that topic before I lose my cool. Number 9 falls is a miniatures game thing, and this is almost solely miniatures game thing. And I'm sure it probably could apply in other games, but this is almost always a miniatures game thing. If you have and now I'm gonna cut myself off here for a second. I'm talking about general playing. I am not talking about super competitive tournaments. I'm not talking about, at your local store, there's a $100 gift certificate for the guy who wins the most matches in 6 months. I'm not talking about anything. I'm talking about just having fun playing with your friends or playing with strangers, whatever. That's what I'm talking about here. If you have a unit in your army, in your force, that at least a couple of times now, your locals, the people you're playing with, the person you're playing against, maybe most frequently, has said, dude, this unit is broken, it is obnoxious, you take it every time, I hate it, it every time that it hits the table, it takes just a little bit of fun away from me, then maybe for the sake of the fun of the game, find another unit to use. And I know there's going to be people that are like, well, the other guy should, suck it up. We're not playing a tournament. We're not playing for giant bragging rights. We're playing to spend a couple hours together and have a good time. And if taking 3 of this unit dominates my enemy and crushes their souls, or taking this particular, this particular combination of spells, and it, breaks the game, or this combo is so cheesy, or whatever, be a better player. Don't take it. Don't maybe you don't rub it in your opponent's face, but maybe tell them, hey, I've noticed that you hate this unit. I'm not taking any today. I want to have more fun. And that should go a long way to making the next couple hours even better. And, honestly, if that unit is so overpowered and it's like the only thing that wins you games, maybe you should take a look at your tactics, take a look at what you're doing and go, I need to adapt anyway, because what if something happens and they nerf this unit? They change the rules for this unit. I need to figure out what to do to maybe win without them. It's always a good idea to be flexible. Now, that exact same thing that I just said and put it in a tournament format, while I personally really, really hate to use super cheesy units, and I hate people that look at your army and go, oh god, it makes me feel bad even in a tournament setting. I don't want people to not have fun when they play me, even if it's, cutthroat to win. I don't fault someone for taking a cutthroat to win situation in a tournament. There are exceptions. There are exceptions where it's so blatant that you're like, oh man, you are not going to be fun to play. But for the most part, I feel that tournament play is different than fun play, and I get that. And so I don't want anyone to ever think, I'm like, I might judge somebody for their choice of tournament army because they're a cheese bag, but I don't fault them for it. I'm not going to look at them and be like, you shouldn't bring that. I just going to look at them and go, oh, you're a power gamer, I get it. But I'm being judgy. Number 10, the last one for today before we go. One of my deep cuts is, don't argue with the game master. Period. It's not to say you can't discuss a situation after it has passed, after the game has closed. It is not to say that you can't go, I want to make a note of this to discuss later. It's not even that you can't look at your game master and go, I disagree, but all right, let's go with it. What I'm saying is, you don't tell off your game master. You don't tell the game master how things work. You tell them how it reads in the book, and you tell them how you've been using it, or you say, hey, this is what it says here. What do you think? You don't go, I'm going to do this, and when the game master says, nah, it doesn't work that way, you tell them off. You don't cuss them out and be like, oh god, that's the worst. And you also don't verbally judge what your DM is doing. You don't know what's going on behind the screen. It could be part of a puzzle. It could be part of a multiple sets of encounters. It could be, it could be anything. It might just be a giant illusion and you wake up and it's a dream sequence. Whatever's going on, the DM is the narrator. They're the person that is setting up the stage and moving all of the pieces aside from you. They are also the one that chooses the rules for you, to how they apply to the various parts of their game. And so when you are quoted a rule, or when you ask to get permission to do something and been told no, rather than flipping out or getting angry or saying, well, I'm going to do it anyway, or something stupid like that, you just kind of chalk it up to a busy moment and you think about what to do in the next moment, the next time your turn comes around, or the next time this fight happens, or the next time, you figure out how to make it work for you and the DM and the rest of your group. What you don't do is sit there and argue and yell at your dungeon master. Because not only is that hopefully not going to get you anywhere, I hope that they stick to their guns and they burn you to the ground for being a jerk. But it's not going to change anything at the time, at that exact time. It might cause them to even buck against you harder for future things. Or, in a very worst case scenario, they might get super angry and decide running the game's not worth it. And they walk away, and now you've ruined everyone's fun. Just don't argue with your DM. Save it, discuss it, possibly see change in the future, but don't be a jerk about it. Because, yeah, it is everybody's game, it's everybody's story. Ultimately, the Dungeon Master has the most moving parts, and really has the most to win or lose should they decide to pull the plug. So, those are my 10 deep cuts for today. I know a few of them are probably, people might just kind of raise their eyebrows like, why is that a thing? It just means it's something that has come up over the course of the last week or two and been kind of itching in the back of my brain, and I really just wanted to get that out there. I hope we have good comments about this sort of thing. I hope we get a chance to talk about this sort of thing. More than anything, I hope that everybody is being safe and having a good time out there. And hell, who knows? Maybe next week I'll be able to show you some things that I've had a chance to mess with my 3D printer. Thank you again, whoever you are. If you're one of the subscribers, I don't know who you are, but thank you. You're way too kind. My address is in the description. So are all the links to follow. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, tell your friends about us. Spread it around on Facebook and Twitter and TikTok and whatnot. Let's get our numbers up. Let's go out there, be safe. Get vaccinated, wear a mask if you can. Or wear a mask, get vaccinated if you can. But more than anything, do me a favor, have some fun, play some games. See you next week.